Hi, I'm Professor David Parker, and I'm here to introduce you to History 315, Modern Latin America Sources and Debates, which is one of the core seminar options for 2022-2023. First, let's start with what are core seminars in history supposed to do? Like all courses, they're designed to introduce you to a particular place and time in history, but also, and this is unique to core seminars and why they are full year courses taught as small seminars, they're also designed to give you your first introduction to history as a professional academic discipline, tasked with uncovering and making sense of what happened in the past by analyzing and interpreting the fragmentary evidence that the past has left behind. How do we do that analyzing and interpreting is a big part of what core seminars are all about. So one way to think about core seminars is that they are history courses with a lab component, almost, you could say. So let's look at these two different sides of History 315, Modern Latin American History, as a core seminar. First, the introduction to a particular time and place in history. In the case of History 315, the place is Latin America, the Spanish and Portuguese-speaking countries from Mexico through South America. And the time is from about 1850 up to nearly the present. So this is not a course about Spanish conquerors and the Aztecs and Incas. Rather, it is about a group of free, independent Spanish and Portuguese-speaking countries trying to deal with the legacy of their colonial past while also making their way in the modern world in search of economic development, political stability, and social and cultural fulfillment. Students tend to find the story of Latin America a really interesting one, filled with conflict, revolutions, military dictatorships, and the fight to consolidate effective democracies. It's a unique story in global terms because although Latin America was colonized, just like India, Africa, the Middle East, and many parts of Asia, it also threw off colonial rule early, only 40 years after the United States and well before Canada. So Latin America includes some of the oldest democratic republics in the world, dating from a time when much of Europe itself was still ruled by monarchies. It's also an ethnically diverse region where most people are of mixed descent, with ancestors who were both colonizers and colonized indigenous peoples, or both masters and African slaves. It's a place that challenges our standard understandings of concepts like colonialism, indigeneity, and race. It's a place that is both Western and non-Western. It's a middle-income region where poverty is ever present, but it also is a place where the past has included times of significant wealth and prosperity. The question of how I teach History 315, both as an introduction to a part of the world you probably don't know much about, and as a lab where you learn the tools of history as a trade and an academic discipline. One way to think about this is that you're probably accustomed to thinking about history books as stories told about what happened in the past. History lectures too. In most classes, you learn that story, and that's what you get tested on. Core seminars are different from that. Core seminars are designed not only to tell you the story of what happened in the past, but also to show you everything that went into making that story in the first place. In fall term, History 315 meets twice a week. The first meeting each week is the traditional class, where I will mostly lecture, introducing you to my narrative of key themes and events in the history of Latin America, covering a particular time period, country, event, and theme. Then the second meeting each week is the lab, where we put the previous class under a microscope. We read original period documents related to that previous class. We read and debate alternative explanations and interpretations and focus on how we might have told the story differently, just as working professional historians do. So in fall term, lecture and then lab. In winter term, it becomes all lab. So that's why we switch in winter term to one weekly 3-hour seminar. We focus more in depth on all the different kinds of source materials that historians use. We use old photographs, which I have you work in teams of 2 to make sense of and then present to the class. We read a novel, The Real Life of Alejandro Maita, which tells the story of a revolutionary in 1950s Peru, but also tells a story about how hard it is to accurately reconstruct the past in the face of uncertainty, in the face of people's faulty memories and their tendency to tell self-serving lies. We take up some major debates in Latin American history, and we divide you into debating teams to argue one side or the other. And in winter semester, you choose a topic and go through every step that a working historian goes through to research that topic. Learning how to effectively use the library, learning how to use scholarly journal articles, learning how to formulate an original research question, learning efficient ways to manage a lot of information and not lose track of your notes, learning how to properly cite sources and frame the quotes you use. In short, learning all the conventions of history paper writing, just as professional historians are required to follow. So again, to recap briefly, History 315 is just, it's learning about Latin American history as a lab to understand how to do history, and we combine both of those components in a single course the same way that all core seminars do. I hope to see you there in September.